Perhaps you've heard the term IDEA, or the IDEA, which stands for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and it's the cornerstone of all special education. Jen, can you tell us more about it?
Sure, I can. So the IDEA was originally enacted in 1975, and at that time it was called the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, and it has been reauthorized over the years by Congress, and eventually the name was changed, and now we call it IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. IDEA is the federal special education law. It is the federal law that requires each state that opts into the program, which all states do, in order to receive the funding, that they are required to comply with both the procedural requirements of the federal special education law as well as the substantive requirements of the special education law. So it's the governing statute. And so all parents who either suspect their child to have a disability or who know that their child has a disability, who are school-aged, and by that I mean even very young children if you already know, because the IDEA does cover early intervention services, you should be very familiar with the IDEA because that's where all of your rights are located, is right in that statute.
And as much as I wouldn't expect parents to be a special education advocate or a special education attorney, I think there are basic things that all parents who have a child with a disability who has an individualized education plan or suspect that their child has a disability really should know the basic tenets of the IDEA.
Yeah, and what's important for parents to understand is just because your child has a diagnosed disability does not necessarily mean that you're eligible for services under the IDEA. And there are other federal statutes that are involved with disability-related educational issues, such as Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, which is mainly an Accommodations Act. It's not a Services Act. We can talk about that at a different time. But the IDEA basically says that if a child is found eligible, and there are a whole lot of procedures that go into place of finding a child eligible. If the child is found eligible for special education and related services, then they're entitled to what you referred to earlier, an individualized education program, and that has all sorts of requirements as well. So just having a disability doesn't automatically entitle a child to services under the IDEA, but if your child has a diagnosed disability, then it's time to trigger that process if it is impacting the child's education. Something parents should keep in mind, though, is that the IDEA is the federal law. There are also state laws that govern special education and, in some circumstances, provide even more protection to children with disabilities and more rights under the special education laws of the individual state. So the federal law is like the floor, but by our system of government, your state could have a higher ceiling. And so you should check out your state laws as well.
So the bottom line is, Jen, that the IDEA is the law that's there to protect parents.